I've done that so many times.
Do it.
Yeah, my followers will be very confused. What's going on? Right, that's quite loud actually. Right, Case Brother is playing. Rob, take us away.
We're here, week 7 of the NFL season. Redemption for my team. Lucky win for Johnny's team, many would say. A big week around the NFL. A little bit of news for you. Sam Howell is currently massively on track to break the sack record for QBs. The record stands at 76, and Sam Howell racked up his 40th sack on him this week, which was nice. And in other news, AJ Brown's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Brilliant.
Pretty good. Pretty scary. Pretty scary.
With his pink boots.
Pretty intense celebrations. Yeah, and the black visor.
It's terrifying.
You can only ever see his smile. He's like the Cheshire Cat, except for massive and hench.
Right. I'm afraid I've not quite prepared. I'll skim through these quickly because I know we're on a bit of time pressure today. But Cook continues to climb in power ranking score, going to 3,100 after a win over me. He's 6-1, very much in the lead. I've not got the rises and fallers. I think, Johnny, were you 2 last week or were you a bit lower?
I think I was lower than that. I was quite way down. I think I was like 5th.
You're number 2 now. And then it's sort of a hunting middle pack of, quite close together between Charlie in 3rd and Ronnie down in...
How are me and Luke lower than Ronnie? What's going on?
You're very far down, Rob. They're not respecting the Frobs at all.
Wow.
That's tough.
Wow.
Outrageous.
And some changes in the playoff odds front. The Sweethearts previously were 20%? After a win this week, doubled to 41, above the Bates Bang averages, who are now the closest team
Huge
to the Pond Power Rangers, who are still sat at 1.4%, which may have gone up actually. I feel like it was 1.1% last week. Anyone else?
So by losing, it increased his odds of.
Well, I think some people might have
lost.
It has,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe like the teams around, just the weird maths of it means he's more likely to get 8th because other teams lost. But yeah. Well, you have to go back and see the other episode to see if it actually gone down. But I feel like it was already 1 point something before. So, yeah. Anyway, obviously people can go have a little pause and look at these odds if they prefer. So have a bit more in-depth. The top sort of 6 are as you might expect. And it's all like 90%, which doesn't feel right. To say you got there's a 1 in 10 chance that each of me and Charlie miss the playoffs. I feel like it's slightly more than that. But we'll see. Moving on, Johnny, you're, I believe, leading the way this week. So how about you take us away with your first game?
I think the first one I was going to review was, as Rob said, the return to form of the Throbs with a much needed victory over the Bang averages.
I wouldn't describe it as a return to form.
Return to form.
It was very much business as usual.
Picking up on that, Rob won with a score of 86, which would have only beaten 3 teams in the league, and there was only one other matchup in which he would have won. So he did really get away with that.
The thing is, look at the performances though. I don't know how I only scored 86.
I mean,
there's some good scorers in there.
Graham Gano didn't do you many favours. Yeah, I'm looking at your lineup now, Rob, and the bottom 4 players on your roster who you started last week are all now off your roster. Khalil Mack, Josh Allen, Graham Gano, Rams.
Oh, they were. In fairness, they were all bye-week replacements, and they are now. Yeah, they didn't deserve
heavy streaming going on. Anyway, there was some green shoots. So the return of Saquon Barkley with a decent performance, a continued preeminent form of Travis Etienne, and Trevor Lawrence looking a little bit better last week as well. He was helped by that last-minute touchdown big touchdown by Kirk. Not really getting a lot out of your wide receiver room still, though, Rob.
No,
so I guess coming to you there. What's your plan? What's your plan at wide receiver
I mean, there's not a lot you can do with Davante Adams. He should have scored higher this week. 12 targets is a good place to be at.
He did drop one in the end zone. Like he just had a wide open touchdown against Tyreek Stevenson, and it literally was just there, and he dropped it. Like, it's just ridiculous.
He really wants to leave the Raiders. He does not want to be there. To me, it doesn't really matter who's throwing in passes because I don't think Garoppolo is good at all anyway. So, Davante Adams, I just have to keep starting him and hope that he gets into the end zone, which he should more going forwards.
I think the best hope is Aiden O'Connell starts playing because Hoyer looked so awful. Like,
possibly, yeah.
Like, genuinely.
Adams wasn't great in the game that O'Connell played.
Yeah, but O'Connell was just getting absolutely obliterated. Like, it was a joke. Like, they sack him like 8 times in like the 2 quarters he played. Like, it was silly. Like,
it's interesting. When do we start to look at Adams as having left the elite tier of wide receivers, or has that happened already?
Well, I mean, when he starts playing badly instead of just not getting the ball.
He was getting open consistently, and he wasn't getting the ball. Like, that was just.
I don't know. I disagree with you guys. I think in Dynasty, one of the things to score it by or to judge it by is what will you trade for him. And I'm pretty. So I can tell you for one thing, looking at Adams in your lineup last week, Rob, I wasn't particularly scared of him. And then if I was trading for Adams now, I think I'd be very scared. I wouldn't be looking to make a trade for him because what the really elite wide receivers put up, maybe they don't put up the very, very, very top stats if their quarterback plays poor, but they don't put up 7 weeks worth of pod. Not that it's been 7 weeks. He's had a couple of decent weeks in there, but like he's been poor for a month, and you just don't see that with the truly elite wide receivers.
He scored half his points against me, by the way. It's half his points against me.
He knows when to switch it on.
Frick. Drop him.
I get where you're coming from. He's obviously not towards the same value as a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, but you can't get away from the fact that he is one of the best receivers in the NFL.
Well, maybe, but
almost whoever's throwing in balls. Like,
so right now you'd say he's a lot more valuable than Keenan Allen, for example.
I mean,
he's also a 30-year-old wide receiver.
Really, only 30, Keenan Allen.
He might be 31.
It's difficult. It's difficult to say.
He's 31.
Yes, I would say that Davante Adams is more valuable than Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's been playing incredibly well, and anyone would want him on their team. But
Herbert thrown to him and not Jimmy Garoppolo.
Like, I get what you're saying, Johnny. Is that the quarterback should be maybe folded in to his value, but he had a really good year last year, playing without Aaron Rodgers, and he is a really good player. Like, there's just no getting away from that.
Once you're past 30, so much of it depends on your current form. It's not even necessarily about the quarterback, because the problem is Keenan Allen this time last year wouldn't have had that much value attached to him. He looked like he was injured. He wasn't playing that well, and he was past 30. Whereas Adams right now, something's not clicking. We don't know when it's going to click. If it's going to work out at some point this season, we can't be sure. And past this season, next year he'll be 31. I think he's definitely left that kind of elite group in terms of what you can expect production-wise. And value-wise, I think he'll be a lot closer to
I agree, but
Keenan Allen than he went to a Tyreek Hill. No. Well, there's a lot of things playing into it in there. Also, it's not his fault he's 30.
Well, you know what I mean, but like what I'm saying is, like, if Davante Adams was playing on like another, like maybe
almost any other team,
almost any other team, he'd be.
The dream scenario for me is he gets traded next week. The trade that he clearly so desperately wants.
Maybe to the Chiefs. Imagine.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Every time I say to the Chiefs, yeah.
That would be absolutely brilliant.
Before moving on to Bates roster, I do want to just highlight, though, the opposite end of the age spectrum, Dalton Kincaid, with what looked like a breakout performance.
Yeah,
and now
which is funny because
his tight end competition, Crocked, going to be out a while having surgery. So,
yeah, it's looking good. And I made a trade with Ronnie for David Njoku before the games, and then forgot to put David Njoku in because I didn't actually realise that Ronnie had accepted the trade offer. So this was going to be the week where I benched Dalton Kincaid, but thankfully I didn't, and he had a good week. Yeah.
Do you not think he looks a bit like Buzz Lightyear? Like, I don't know what it is about him.
He does a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. He looks like he would be an NFL player in a Disney sort of movie.
Yeah.
He's like the rival. He desperately wants to start. show song.
Got you back on a crucial victory to get you 3 and 4, Rob. So you're keeping on the coattails of Lucas for second spot in the Earth Division. But it was a disappointing loss for James. Fortunately for James, because there's been a few losses of the teams ahead of him, he's only 1 loss back from Callum and Charlie still, so he can turn it around. But it's going to be difficult because he's Justin Fields looks like he's going to be out a little while longer. Obviously Jefferson looks like he's going to be out a while. I mean, 3 more weeks at least, and then the news sounds pretty indeterminate as to exactly when he can be expected back. So I don't know. It's a bit of a tricky spot for Bates, and he needs some of those depth pieces to start performing.
I will say he probably would have won this week had he not been struck by Bijan's here, but he's not actually playing, guys. It was just all a joke.
What is going on there? Like, is he ill or isn't he? Because they said he was ill, but they didn't tell anyone before the game.
The NFL's investigating it. They think there's some kind of foul play that the NFL is suspecting, hence they're launching a formal investigation into it.
In what way? What's the foul play? What they didn't?
I don't know. I just saw
he wouldn't be playing.
It was announced earlier today.
But then he felt well enough to come out.
Maybe after Smith had a cheeky.
No, Bijan had a cheeky acco on himself to get like 75 plus rushing yards, and they found out. So they were like, "Oh, Bijan, you can't do that, mate." So
can you imagine that if it turns out that he did and the Falcons were trying to protect him? That'd be incredible. That'd be absolutely incredible. Not for Bijan, but
no.
We didn't touch on this. Oh no, we'll get to my roster later.
He's going to be a full participant in practice this week again. Like what's going on?
Did he just have the shit or something? I don't understand what they're trying to claim. Like he was just standing there.
I don't know.
He's sick, but he's just standing there with his helmet ready to play the whole time.
And they sent him on. They said he went on there was a couple of
70% of snaps.
They sent him on for a crucial snap, and then immediately called him off again. It was so weird. It was so weird. No, I feel like we haven't quite heard the end of this. But there was something weird going on. The story will come out later, and hopefully that was all it was. But anyway,
here we go. Sorry,
Bates should have better weeks. He's got Henry's coming back from bye. Bijan will be better in the future, and he has a few decent depth wide receivers who can go off any week, so he should definitely have better weeks.
He wasn't feeling like himself, guys. Wasn't feeling like himself. There you go.
We all have those days.
Yeah, that's how it be. And also he's got some decent pieces around the board. Yeah, I agree. So he's got a good enough roster that if he gets to the playoffs come the end of the year, he'll be a contender. Because I
would say this though. I don't know if Bates listens to this, but if I was Bates, I would be heavily looking for a trade quarterback, because Dobbs is not going to be the starter for much longer at all because Murray's coming back. Fields, it looks very uncertain how much longer he'll be out, so I think it's a position.
Fuck it.
There's a few teams around the league with decent backup QBs.
He is. I can confirm he is on the market for one. Yeah, it's not for mine, don't worry, but someone else's. He is inquiring around the league. Someone
else's. Rob, are you getting inquiries, Rob?
Not that I'm aware of. Maybe he's out. Maybe this is.
CJ Stroud would be a great target, but there's who is there? There's Dak Prescott is Aiden's backup, and CJ Stroud's your backup. If anyone wants to come looking for Jordan Love, I'm listening.
You go. So I remember that conversation we had in week 2 of whether or not Jordan Love's a superstar quarterback. That was fun.
Yeah,
Jury's still out. Jury's still out.
He's solid. He's solid. Well, his numbers not been bad, but he's definitely a fantasy backup quarterback.
He's there.
He's not a starter.
He lines up in the right place each play.
I'm very comfortable with him on my bench.
Would you rather start Tyson Bagent or Jordan Love next week, Rob?
Kurt Benkert, please.
Kurt Benkert. Have you seen his TikToks?
Jordan Love, I'm just looking at him now. Jordan Love has scored over 15 points.
No, I'm taking a piss. He's fine.
He's okay.
No, but
I'd like to see more from him
after the season. We'll see.
No, he's not going to get cut after the season. Come on.
Not cut.
Haven't they got to pay him?
Starter after this year.
Haven't they got to pay him?
I think they do actually. Yeah.
Or maybe they can they
They're
not
not
50-year
50-year
option?
option.
Yeah, they can 50-year option him, right? Or have they
Well,
already?
they
I
pay
don't
him.
think they did.
Also,
I think they extended him. I think they gave him some funny contract where it was like a middle ground, 20 million-ish. They extended at the start of this year for this.
We're not going to have to pay Jordan Love anything serious, especially if he keeps playing the way he's playing right now. It will be like a middle of the road contract.
Oh, this is weird. I don't understand this. It's on the screen now, but I don't understand what the yellow numbers mean.
I'm pretty sure they extended him right before the end of the off season, and it was because he was under contract, rookie contract for this year. They didn't want to put him on the thingy tag, so they extended him with a 2-year contract, which will be this year and next year.
I see.
I think that was what they did.
I think they're paying him 13 mil guaranteed over the next 2 years, and then they can cut him after next year, basically nothing. For 5 mil. Yeah.
It was basically the type of deal that the Giants should have done with Daniel Jones that they got.
Daniel Jones' agent. I need him in my life, honestly. Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, well, hoping for a Bates turnaround soon. Anyway, but then the second matchup I was asked to look at was the Grenadiers versus the Cienfuegos. And it was a pretty dominant win for Miles and his Grenadiers. I guess the week started well with a last-minute Kirk touchdown in the Thursday game, which gave him a nice, strong score. I want to focus on Kirk, actually, because I feel like at the start of the season, I certainly had a very poor opinion of him. I thought he was going to be overtaken as the main guy in that backfield, and from what in that receiving core. And from what you've heard from camp, it sounded like he was just going to be the slot guy. Week 1, he was barely involved. And then since then, I mean, I'm looking at his scores. He's consistently up around 10 points or above. He's just been absolutely consistent, very, very strong production. He's the 16th ranked wide receiver on the season as a whole. So he's looking really, really good. Still only 26.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's not to love?
Love that. Great option. And I don't know what's going on with Ridley. But I think we talked about Ridley last week, so I won't go on too much about him.
I feel like we've talked more than deserves to be mentioned for the Jaguars receiving core. Zay Jones is back next week, so
I think I remember Miles picked Christian Kirk with something like the 240th pick or something in our startup draft, all the way back when we first drafted, and that was when he was we thought he was going to be a pretty irrelevant player on the Cardinals, and since then he had a good season with the Cards, big money move to the Jags, big first season, and now he's held off. Competition is again looking good, so very good draft pick by Miles. And obviously Patrick Mahomes last week is just amazing.
He's
and talking of another
excellent, isn't he?
Another excellent draft pick by Miles, though, Zay Flowers, continues to look really good.
I was surprised he didn't get a touchdown. He was unlucky, wasn't he? Because they were absolutely giving it to the Lions, weren't they? It was ridiculous. I can't believe he didn't get a touchdown.
I kind of felt like they were winning so easily. They didn't really need to, because they have a lot of plays drawn up specifically for him. So I guess maybe they just wanted to keep some of them in their back pocket for tougher matchups, because they didn't need to use them here. They could just go through them.
He only got 4 passes, but there was a lot of them were deep. It would seem, because he got 75 yards off those.
I think there was a lot of yards after the catch. I think he got a lot of yards after the catch.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Dynamic player.
Number 32.
Would you say he's the best receiver in this year's draft class?
No, Puka Nacua
so far.
Yeah, Puka Nacua.
Oh yeah, to be fair.
Number 2 in the league in receiving yardage.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And he had a massive game this week, even with Cut playing. He was. And I know Rob saw it, but I don't know if you saw that sideline catch where Minka Fitzpatrick just collarts him and he holds on and gets 2 feet down. It's crazy. Amazing. Honestly, what a man.
Well, we'll get to him in a minute. Touching on the Cienfuegos, who had a disappointing week. Quarterbacks sitting, so he had to start Stafford. Not a great turnout there. His wide receivers still continue to be amazing. So, I mean, Lucas will get some wins, I feel like, before the end of the year. You're going to get them when you're starting Tyreek Hill and St. Brown every week. Zach Evans looks like he's droppable. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, they're bringing in like random people like Royce Freeman to carry the
it
ball.
doesn't speak for confidence, does it? When you get a chance and your bosses are bringing in like everyone who used to work for the company to fill in for you instead.
Not ideal, is it?
Literally, I think in the context where like everyone else is injured, the first week in, so they have to cover, and plenty of these other players wouldn't know the offense that well yet, and they don't give them a single snap in the backfield.
Yeah,
I would
not
say
a single one. And
I feel like that basically
Darrell
says he's
Henderson.
not.
Henderson on 2 days practice was better.
They'd rather have Kyron, Ronnie Rivers, Darrell Henderson, and Royce Freeman ahead of the rookie they drafted in whatever round he was taken in. I don't know. Not ideal. I mean, you know,
He was like 6th or something, maybe 7th.
There you go. So not ideal.
Anyway.
He made the team.
So he probably needs to go, but then Lucas got plenty of really good players. Mark Andrews particularly has looked excellent the last few weeks. So he's going to pick up some wins here and there. I'm not too worried for him.
Yeah, he'd be fine.
Do you guys want to move on to yours?
Absolutely. Robert, take us away.
I just want to mention quickly before we leave, Lucas, sorry. He will hope to see Mattison get some points because I believe I'm right in saying that the Vikings are the first team, at least in a very long time, if not ever, to have gone this long without a rushing touchdown.
He hasn't got one yet. Jesus.
No, the Vikings. I don't believe the Vikings have a rushing touchdown on the year yet.
That's
so
crazy.
He's had a receiving touchdown, Mattison.
You would expect to see something improve there.
Yeah. He seems to be touchdown dependent despite being the only running back in the team. Which is mental.
He's had 2 receiving touchdowns, not a single rushing touchdown.
Well, there you go. But the Vikings look they may be on the up. They're going to Green Bay in this week, so I'm not even disagreeing. Elite
quarterback they're playing against.
They should actually win that game, though. I feel like the Vikings.
They probably should.
Yeah,
and you can rush on the Packers as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So
it's been known to happen
at some point. Right, Robert, you're up next.
I'm up next. My first one is your own lovely Morans against the Cook 69ers, which going in, it looked like it might even be leaning in your favour, but then Lamar Jackson blew out the Lions, and it very quickly became a bit of a one-man contest.
Yeah, I mean, he could have put up an average score and he still would have beaten me, but like I was kind of banking on McCaffrey not playing like the whole time.
Yes, yeah. But so I think when your opponent's quarterback gets almost 34 points, it's always going to be a very tricky week. And it does seem like for Ben, he has few players who can just go huge any given week.
Joshua Palmer was really well.
And that does cover for when someone that he has been relying on quite a lot this year, Raheem Mostert, has a very uncharacteristically off day, and actually the whole Miami running offense has an off day against the Eagles. But like I said, he has 2 other superstars who can step up and score huge points that almost single-handedly win in the game.
Exactly, yeah. It's hard to like sort of work out where like this. I mean, 50 odd points come from McCaffrey and Jackson alone, but then like there's another 60 that have been accumulated around the rest of his players. And
yeah. I mean, Chase Young with 2 sacks is.
Well, no, Gus Edwards had a big game.
Gus Edwards was.
How do you feel now, actually, Lucas, having traded Gus Edwards about a week ago or a couple of weeks ago for a 3rd-round pick?
Fine to be honest, because he still split snaps with Hill. Like he just happened to get the benefit of a stomping over the Lions. Like I probably, it's whatever. I think Hill will have a week like that at some point, potentially. But I don't think this has been Gus Edwards' worst season in yards per carry in his career. I think he actually was like 5th all time before that in yards per carry over a certain point of all running backs ever in the NFL. But I don't know. I was pleased to get some return on him after him being on my team for literally like 2 years.
Yeah.
But he was frustrating me when I was starting him for these like 5-point games.
You had that initial. Someone else had him though, wasn't it? Because when we drafted, I remember Miles. So Miles having drafted, and it was first ever draft.
Yeah.
The heartbreak of Dobbins tearing his whole knee up within about a week of the draft. And then someone else had Edwards. Suddenly thought they had a starting running back for the season, and then he tore his ACL up. So I think they then dropped him. You picked him up about a day later and chucked him on your IR.
It would have been the ESPN day, so we won't have a record of who it was. Maybe we'll have to have someone come forward. But I will say, actually,
I think it might be Ronnie.
Sounds like the sort of thing. I mean, like, let's be real. Like, 14 of his 20 points did come from the Lions playing their classic cover zero, like man-to-man defense, and it just leading to an 80-yard touchdown dump off. So, like, that is if that play doesn't happen, then it's normal Gus Edwards' performance.
I thought he didn't get a touchdown on that play. I thought he had the rare achievement of managing to get 80 yards without scoring.
Yeah, you were 80
he was running so slowly that they caught him up.
Just slow motion.
Classic Gus Edwards.
No, I think he must have just punched one in at some point. Yeah, you're right.
I do also think it's worth mentioning Deontay Johnson made his return this week and looked pretty good. It was actually a pretty crucial part of the Pittsburgh offense, actually looking a lot more acceptable this week. I think they've been absolutely crap all year, but then some good running from Najee, Deontay's return, and I can see Johnny's smug look. The connection between
someone else.
Well, no, the connection between Pickens and Pickett growing is important, and it is great. But I don't think it's a coincidence that the offense has looked much better now that Deontay Johnson's back.
I agree.
I think he brings a whole nother dynamic to that team that will help Pickens' production. But yeah, it'll be encouraging for them to have him back
later. But I think that it's massive for both of them because Pickens, and I was maybe being a bit quiet of this earlier in the year, but I was a bit not worried, but like I didn't necessarily value Pickens as highly as maybe some when you see fancy commentators would, because if his route tree prior to the last few weeks had been a lot of kind of running straight and deep fast and then particular shortcut routes. And I think that when Johnson went out, the first question was, are they going to use him like an X receiver and try and get him to do everything, not just the kind of he does his bits and Johnson does his bits. And they did. And then there was that kind of second challenge of, can he actually do that consistently, even when he's getting double coverage, and help move the chains and be a difference maker for this offense? I think there was a couple of games where he did, and that was incredibly encouraging. There was a couple of games where he struggled with it so much. And I think having Johnson back as kind of a chain mover, he gets a lot of stuff in the short yardage games, and to distract, kind of take a bit of attention off from the defense, it could be crucial to allowing Pickens to kind of flourish into the best version of the all-out receiver that he can be. And the most encouraging thing for me in last week's game was that even though Johnson was back, they were still using Pickens on the full diversity of routes. So he wasn't just running deep; they were using him all over the field. So it's encouraging. Maybe the Steelers' offense will finally be what we were promised it was going to be at the start of the year.
Maybe they'll get 400 total yards of offense in a game. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? The only team that haven't done it in the last 5 years or whatever it was. I don't know what that was. You're up next, Rob. You've actually got the Hogs.
The Hogs, yes, the Hogs versus the Pond Power Rangers, which, despite 103 points for Aiden, which is a pretty good score.
For the week, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Johnny puts up 141.
He would have beaten more than half of the teams in the league.
Johnny puts up 141 and easily wins. Deontay Foreman, great week. Who knows if he'll do it again? He seems to love to pop up and do a sort of 20-point week.
He'll get more touchdowns, 100%.
Every year, Aiden picks up Deontay Foreman from waivers, and I'm pretty sure haven't gone back to look, but I'm pretty sure Foreman had a massive game against me for Aiden last year when he suddenly became the starter of the Panthers.
He had that game against the Falcons
every bloody year
where he got like 150 yards. But I think almost more importantly, Najee Harris got into the end zone and actually looked all right, which he hasn't at all season. So there's a chance that Aiden might have 2 functional running backs going forwards in Swift and Harris.
What? Or 3. because not only has he got Foreman, but he's actually got Rashawn Johnson, who should be back this week and has a legit chance of taking over that backfield. And the Bears' offense has looked a lot better the last couple of weeks. I'm excited to see him.
This is very true. But yeah, so good week for Aidan, but sadly not quite good enough because just everything went pretty smoothly. You, Johnny, you had
Christ.
Lewicon got the first touchdown of his career, which I know that Aidan actually messaged me thinking that I had it. He was playing me this week and saying, of course, Lewicon scores his first touchdown of his career against me. Which, 19 points for him is never bad. 86 yards for Hockenson on 11 receptions is great. He just continues to sort of eat up targets. But the three heavy hitters in the skill positions is Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, and AJ Brown, undoubtedly. Jonathan Taylor just sort of returning to the role that we all know that he can and will have in this offense, playing a very good defense in Cleveland, and yet still producing a good week of production. Jahmyr Gibbs eating up a lot of work in the absence of David Montgomery. It'll be interesting to see how the split looks once Montgomery is back. He might not be back for this week, so who knows? But
I don't know if you saw in the game as well. But the thing with Gibbs is, so he had 11 carries. He was very efficient with them. He got nearly 70 yards, but he got 9 receptions. And the thing is once Montgomery's back, there's no reason to believe that work, the receiving game work, won't be there. So I think it'll be interesting because the Lions have dominated quite a lot of games so far this season, which would make sense for a kind of a much more of a power back like Montgomery to be in the game more. But if they have closer games and are behind a bit more, that I don't know, it could be a bit more. Could be a reason to see Gibbs a little bit more frequently.
I think we'll see. I mean, in my opinion, for Gibbs's value to be truly realised in the way that everyone was hoping it would be, or you were hoping it would be prior to the season, he definitely needs a lot more of the running work than he had been getting with Montgomery there. Otherwise, you've got...
My honest opinion... I was going to say, my honest opinion is I don't think he's likely going to do it consistently this year. But I don't think that's so much about the fact that he's smaller, less of a power back than Montgomery. I think it's that they trust Montgomery so much, not just in terms of ball security, but also in terms of blocking and just knowing exactly what he needs to do and where he needs to be when. And Gibbs is a rookie. I think that Dan Campbell's the kind of coach who is going to love and trust and really put the load through someone like Montgomery. And, Gibbs has got a long career ahead of him, and I'm sure there'll be 2-3 years down the line, even if there's always a guy like Montgomery in the game, that it will be more of a split and that you'll see Gibbs being involved more on the ground as well as through the air.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and if I trust almost any offense in the NFL to make the use out of a multi sort of skilled player like Gibbs, and scheme him and incorporate him fully into their scheme, it's Ben Johnson and the Lions, because they are really, really creative with the offense that they put out.
Cool.
And I'd also say, just on the line of Jonathan Taylor, before we move off of my guys, is that it was another game where the Colts rushing game was just amazing. So apart from anything else, I think Gardner Minshew had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Zach Moss had 18 carries and I think about 70 yards. So it was a good game all round. And whilst I don't necessarily agree with Callum's take that this is a committee backfield,
no, it's not. There's no way you're paying Taylor.
but I do agree that I think Zach Moss could continue to be relevant in the way that, for example, a Tyler Algier could be relevant for the Falcons, because I think this running game is going to, the rest of this season and even next year when Richardson's back, it's going to continue to be an excellent running game. They're going to try and strengthen the offensive line in next year's draft around Richardson for when he's coming back. So I don't think there's any reason to think it's not going to be. So I think it's a good rushing offense to have a piece in. And if that's Zach Moss, then I actually think he's going to have some value moving forward. Just not necessarily kind of 50-50 share.
Right. This was a torrid game, the one I'm starting off with. 71. Are these the top 2 bottom scorers? Yeah, so this is 11th and 12th on the week, facing off. Luke would have lost to every other team in the league apart from Ramsey, which is funny because Ramsey's been scoring really well up to this point. I mean, he didn't benefit from Jared Goff having a 6-point game on 53 pass attempts. Very unfortunate for him, but didn't get a touchdown or much really at all. Calvin Ridley continues to disappoint for him. Put him on the trade block, I believe, at the end of this week. We'll see how that goes.
What a message! What a message to send.
Yeah, it's a statement to the franchise that Callum continues to set for anyone who has a bad week on his team.
Do you think Ridley bet the under on himself this week?
Oh, absolutely. He's like telling the coaches, "Get me out the game, guys. Come on." To be fair though, I mean, like, everyone, if you're gonna have a down week, have a down week. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Engram didn't get much. His top scorer was Jacoby Myers. Actually was, I think, with 11.5 points. And then Blake Groupie, like that's not a good week, is it really? And then we'd be saying the same thing for Luke in any other matchup, but he had 2 of his players get over 10
points.
Where
did his points come from?
Atlanta and Jalen Hurts were the only people who got more than 10 points. Like, that's it.
They were the only people who got more than 6. No, Terry McLaurin got 9. So other than Atlanta, 9 from Terry McLaurin and Jalen Hurts, nobody got more than 6 points.
I feel bad for Devontae Smith. Like, what's happened to him? Like, what are the Eagles doing differently that means Devontae Smith is not getting the ball as much? Because he's on the field all the time.
I think AJ Brown had a word with Jalen Hurts and the offensive coordinator, and as we mentioned earlier, AJ Brown's a very scary man when he's wearing his visor. So I think he had his way.
I
mean, it's a similar sort of situation to what Jayden Waddle seems to be in at the Dolphins, where last year it was very much, that 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Whereas now it almost has become a 1 and a 2 option. Whether that remains the case, it remains to be seen. But it's worth mentioning Josh Downs on the bench for the who had a fantastic game.
He did, yeah.
Great value.
Watching Waddle a bit more closely, I don't like it. It is similar, but there's something a little bit different going on in the sense that Waddle has missed there's been 3 or 4 games this year where he's had an injury during the game and gone off for like an hour and gone and been checked out in the medical tent or in the changing room and then come back out later. Whereas Smith's obviously been on the field the whole time. So I don't know if it's that the Eagles have been in particularly close competitive matchups, and so Hurts is kind of showing his hand and going to the option that he prefers most.
Are they running the ball slightly more?
I watched the game. Smith looked good now.
It feels like they are. I don't know if stats back that up, but Jalen Hurts is his value for Luke. Is it hanging on from the brotherly shove?
Yeah, that is. He continues to be a solid option. I mean, I think Luke will just take the win really at this point. He's not gonna. He's 4-3 still, despite being, I believe, I don't know where he is in scoring in the whole league, but it's not near the top.
He was second.
To be fair to Luke,
he's second bottom by 1 point. Aiden is 6-3-1. He's 6-3-2. And Aiden is.
To be fair to him, he's dealt with a prolonged absence from Aaron Jones. He had a lot of black guys on bye this week, so he's going to have Pollard back, Mixon back, Schultz back, the Cowboys D back. So he's got a lot of big hitters. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, well, interesting to see how he gets on come crunch time, of course. And then our final...
Actually, I wanted to mention that earlier quickly, if that's all right, just really quickly on Callum's front, which is that we're nearing that point of the season now where there are teams who can look at it and say, that they've got a very high odds of making playoffs, and so starting to plan for that, right? And I think this is the thing with Calvin Ridley, or I guess to a slightly more debatable extent, Amari Cooper, is that these kind of options who we know can score well, and maybe it's circumstantial as to why they're scoring badly in any individual week. As you near playoffs, it gets particularly crucial to try and work out who are the ones that you can depend on, because it's all very well if in the regular season players like a Ridley can score 20 points one week and nothing the next week, because they'll get you enough wins to get you into the playoffs. But I don't think, for example, Calvin Ridley is someone who's going to be able to serve you well in the playoffs, because he's doing this so regularly that at some point in that playoff journey, he's going to have a stinker, and that could just completely torpedo your week. Yeah. So Fortunately, Callum's got these guys like Jacoby Myers who actually have been very dependable. So he'll have to work out what he does there. But
yeah, Jacoby Myers is seemingly game script. Like he's invincible. He's always just somehow getting the points. It's unbelievable, really. Like genuinely, he's wide receiver 15 on the year in the Vegas offense, who've not scored more than 20 points in any of their games. Like, yeah. So there you go.
I think he's giga draining Davante Adams.
He's the teacher's pet, isn't he, of Josh McDaniels? Like, oh dear.
I think he's made some sort of pact with Satan, and he's draining Davante of his powers.
That's what I said. He's using Giga Drain on Davante Adams. It's when you see him when they're off on the sideline, he's just like sucking.
I don't want to see that.
Oh right. Final game is the Weights Wobblers v the Mercy Whistleblowers. A bit of a gutting loss for Ronnie. He falls to 2-5. And slightly unfortunate as well, breaking the 100-point mark and losing. Always a bit sad, really. Alvin Kamara did all right. It's good to see him coming back and playing well. Johnny, as the Saints fan, I'm sure you're happy to see that, despite the fact that you lost the game this week.
Nope.
Nope.
I think Kamara's current form is a terrible thing for the Saints, because he's so reliable as a dump-off blanket that firstly, it makes this... I don't know if anyone's watched any of the Saints games. It is awful. Derek Carr is so unbelievably horrible to watch. And him dumping down to Alvin Kamara is unfortunately... I think it's like completely de-skilling him in terms of looking at other options. So I think Alvin Kamara in his current form is bad for our current and future offense. But
I mean,
I like him.
Yeah, I like him as well, yeah. I mean, he was part of actually a really strong all-round effort for Ronnie. You had Courtland Sutton, JSN, and Travis Kelce, and Darrell Henderson all score well above projected. Courtland Sutton with 75 yards touchdown.
Lovely breakout game for JSN.
Yeah. Travis Kelce doing what he does in front of the misses, of course. Darrell Henderson coming in, doing his job. I mean, if he hadn't played Keontae Ingram, who didn't get a single snap, and I mean, if Herbert hadn't dropped an 8-pointer, then he may have been able to make this game a bit more competitive. But obviously, on the other side of things,
Ronnie must absolutely hate the Cardinals' just entire running back room, other than Connor.
He's had both of them come in.
He spent all that money on DeMarcado last week. He did nothing, dropped him, picked up Ingram, and then they were like, "Oh no, we're actually going to go with DeMarcado."
I loved it. Did you guys see this morning on waivers where there was just this this feeble? I think it was maybe a $2 bid from Ronnie and DeMarcado. No, $1.
It was like $1. He was like, "Oh, if I have
not
to."
paying any more for this.
I mean, yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's good to see that JSN is the one, because I was thinking, obviously, DK Metcalf's out. Tyler Lockett, it's time. But no, JSN was the guy who actually got a lot of the deep down the field targets from Geno Smith. He was playing like an absolute melon, honestly. I mean, he was doing he had like a 17, 18 point, and then he got a fumble and an interception. But anyway, moving on. But sadly, he ran into Mercer's Whistleblowers, who really did quite well, actually. Got Kirk with another solid performance. And Jordan Addison,
I think it's worth pointing out that Addison was a guy who I feel like a lot of people in the league feel like when he should have taken in the draft ahead of Quentin Johnston. That was the sort of choice that he was weighing up. He took JSN and then took another receiver. Charlie was very happy to be able to pick up Addison after him, and this week showed why, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying earlier about rookie receivers. I mean, Addison's arguably had a better year than Flowers, even though he's not been the one. Like he's in fantasy, but he's number 8 in fantasy, or Jordan Addison, in his rookie year.
If Charlie
touchdowns below.
If Charlie hadn't picked Bryce Young, he would have had such a good first round this year. He could have had Jordan Addison, CJ Stroud, and Devon Achane back to back.
Most rookie touchdowns. Sorry, I'm just most rookie touchdowns in a season. I'm trying to see what the record is, because he's already got like. Gale says on 22.
People have got a few. There'll be running backs who got quite a lot.
I'll do receiving.
Jamar Chase got quite a lot.
Jamar Chase got a lot.
17.
I know what Lucas is saying though. He's on. How many is he on? 6.
He's on 6 after 7 games. So he's
Okay,
like sort of being up there, isn't he? Like 17 touchdowns. If he was like a game where he gets a couple, and obviously Jay Jet has been.
And
out
he's going to
for
get
a
massive
little while.
usage.
Yeah, exactly. So very good pick for Charlie, who's I mean, the rebuilds ended early, it would seem, with some of these players performing like that. Keenan Allen had a bit of a down week this week, but I mean, the Chargers, the offense this week was just getting shut down entirely by that KC defense, who are seemingly stepped up in a big way. Cleveland defense have been a good defense, but not so much fantasy-wise. But did have a good week this week, and stepped up for him. And then Darren Waller had a good week as well for the first time. He had a big week this week, 15 points with a touchdown. His first for the Giants, so that was good for him.
Yeah. I think every week it becomes increasingly clear that the Giants receivers just are not it in any way, shape or form. And Darren Waller is the only target really worth throwing to.
Exactly. I don't know what the Giants are doing. I don't know how hard it can be to find someone to trade for.
Are you including Jalen Hyatt in that, Rob?
Yeah, he had a couple of downfield shots this week.
Is he on the field that much higher? Or is he like only on?
He did all right this week. To be fair to him, he had a couple of deep downfield looks, but come on, it's not too impressive.
Callan tells me he's nailed on to be a superstar.
Has he said those words to you?
I don't.
Did he use the word superstar?
Because if he has, he'll be the first person on the planet to use that in reference to Jalen Hyatt.
There's nothing wrong with him, but
he told me he didn't need any young wide receivers because he's got Jalen Hyatt, Trey Tucker, and Trey Palmer.
He's got a few eggs in a few eggs in a few baskets there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Anyway. A few wide receiver 3-shaped eggs in some poor offense appearance baskets. They actually are some terrible offenses. That's the Giants, Tampa, and the Raiders. Oof.
Trey Palmer's been a weekly touchdown threat, I think you'll find. That's why I had him on the practice on the taxi squad.
And did he get cut from your taxi squad?
Yeah, he got claimed. I got a free third round pick for him. I was buzzing.
Oh damn!
Yeah.
Wow.
I've got a few of those. Got 3 this year. Can't wait. I'm gonna make 7 picks on the last 24 this year. There's like a 1 in 3 chance if you're drafted in.
So, Lucas, you were giving me grief earlier about apparently not,
Oh no, I understand, but I do not want to have all these players on the roster. I have 8 rookies. I might. I'll draft 3 kickers in the 4th round and see what happens.
Wow.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of moving back, I imagine, this year. But it was really good, actually. I'll draft this year with a 24-hour draft pick because it meant there was plenty of in-draft movement. It was very exciting.
Yeah. Full-time career for me.
Particularly in the later rounds, it was great.
Yeah, people like, maybe we can go back and do a full breakdown at some point, but maybe at the end of the year to sort of see how those players turned out. But yeah, well, that does wrap us up for the week, though. Does anyone have any big matchups they're looking forward to next week?
Am I allowed to say my own matchup? Because I am quite excited for my own matchup.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I'm playing Miles.
Oh, big guns.
And I can't remember how it went last year. I think I might have played him quite early on before he kind of emerged on the flying form he was on. But Miles is kind of out at the top of his division. Obviously, it's a Cheriton local derby, so I'm looking forward to that one.
Fantastic, yeah. Okay.
I think it's very evenly matched as well. We kind of predicted 50-50 on either side of the ball. So.
And everyone's players are...
Allen versus Mahomes.
And most importantly, Miles now has the Detroit defense starting and not the New England one. So there you go. Something...
Not that it helped him last week.
The New England defense is projected 0.8 points against the Miami Dolphins this week. Jesus. Do you have one you've picked out?
I might need to nip off, but
it's very dark in your room, Rob. What's going on?
I know. I need to switch on a light, but my matchup is Summer Sweethearts, Pond Power Rangers. No explanation.
We got the 2 lowest scorers in the league. That could be which you wouldn't believe on the record, right, Robbo? I can see you looking to your left there.
Yes,
Have your guests arrived?
They have, so I must leave.
All right, have a good one. See you in a bit. Right. Yeah, I mean, this will be very exciting. You know, why I say exciting, it might be it may be the opposite, but obviously a few players coming back for Luke.
Might be
Yeah, it might be. It could be ugly in terms of scoring, I have to say. But I mean, maybe not. Maybe they'll just surprise us. Both put up 140 each, and I think Johnny might have timed out here, guys. It's just me now. All right, welcome to my one-man play. He's just put in the WhatsApp. What's happened? I think you've timed out, mate. Oh, he's back. Hello, Johnny. Johnny.
Oh, hey, I was messing. Yeah. On my screen, you were doing the same repetitive moment like this, and I just wanted to make sure you weren't having a.
Yeah, you're fully back. I was on my own for a bit. I was like, oh, guys, it's just me now. So, but yeah, I was just saying it could be either very ugly or very interesting in the Pond versus Summer Sweethearts game.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely could be.
And I feel like I keep picking Cook's games for the games of the week. So I kind of wanted to see him dethroned a little bit. But you know, I will go for this one here again. The Ramsey Rioters v the Cooks.
You're backing Callum to do the dethroning.
This is what I mean. Callum's had a few good weeks where he scored a lot of points. So if he can do that again, you know, maybe we see a bit of a. He's got most up playing against New England, so could be scary on that front. But we'll have to see. I think until Cook slows down a bit, every single one of his games will be a point of interest for most of the league to sort of see how he's developing, and also seeing obviously if any of his big players get injured or fall off. So yeah, there you go. Anyway,
and this is the first time in a while that we've had full strength rosters as well. No, I don't think anyone's on bye this week.
Yeah, no teams are on bye, are they? Weirdly enough, is that a new thing, or is it always been a thing that there's no week 8 bye?
I don't know. I
God knows.
Can't remember.
Anyway,
who knows?
Right, boys. Thank you so much for watching this week. It's been probably our shortest one. 52 minutes on the dot almost.
We're getting better. We're getting more succinct.
We zoomed through. Maybe we should always record them with real world time pressure going on in the background to like force ourselves to be quick about it. However, I do believe that the first matchup of the week always receives a bit of extra treatment because we just sort of go into it complacently and give it like a 15-minute feature and then do all the other games in 5 minutes each.
True.
Yeah, all right. Right, boys. See you all next week. Bye-bye.